Hi everyone, it's TanyaMFK here with your 52 Weeks of Momentum lesson recap. This is week 18, and if this is your first time, welcome. I am Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, more easily known as TanyaMFK. I am a member of Benjamin Hardy's 52 Weeks of Momentum course, and I come here every week just sharing the lessons, the insights, the things that I'm learning. So if you miss the deadline, you can at least tag along and get a piece of your momentum this year. So as I mentioned, this is week 18, and this marked the beginning of a big shift and change in the course. So there's a move towards kind of an extreme accountability. And the first way that we saw that was in the gamification. Now, this was mentioned in the very beginning of the course, and perhaps even in the preliminary information on whether or not to join the course, that it would be gamified. This is actually the first time we've experienced it though. And what that means, at least in this moment, is that if you have not stayed on track, if you have kind of gone off course a little bit, then you don't have your next lesson available to you. So you're kind of cut off in a way, and not in so much like a slap on the hand, but more of a kick in the butt to wake you up and to encourage you to get back on track, get it together, get focused, because otherwise, you're not going to get much more momentum. And if you've already been falling off this behind, then it's definitely time to regroup. And I think we've noticed that in the themes of the last couple lessons, everything's been about, coming back, regrouping, where are you at, where you've been. So it was interesting. Fortunately, I've been on track. So I got my information. And there were a lot of people who, we have a big group. There's 760 plus people there. So everyone's at different places. And many people were really thankful and were like, man, this is the kick in the butt that I needed. Some others, not so much. But in any case, it was that reminder. It was a reminder for all of us that we need to be diligent. We need to stay on track. We need to be good stewards of the investment we made in ourselves, right? We're the ones who said, I want this. I want to do it. And all the excuses in the world, they're there. Of course they're there. Everybody has them. And 90% of people use them. And that's why they're not where they want to be in life. So it's expected at that point, right? It's expected. So it's up to us to say, yeah, you're right. It is there. It is crazy. All of those things, and say it doesn't matter because I need to come back and create the environment that allows me to meet and hit my goals. That's where it is, right? So that was a big change, a big shift. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that coming along. And so one of the things, as I mentioned, that, the shift is coming towards accountability. And we've had a lot of worksheets to do in our next couple weeks, and we were given them all at once. And so one of the things a question we were posed with is, when are you actually held accountable? And how often in your life are you being held accountable on a regular basis? And, for a lot of us, it may not be that much, or it may be a lot. You may feel like, oh, okay, this is enough. I don't need anywhere else, on me or whatnot. But it's something to think about. And we were asked this as well on our worksheets. We were answering questions about goals and different stuff. And then the question would come up, who will hold you accountable for this? And it was the first time for me that I really realized I don't have anyone holding me accountable. Other than turning in the lessons for this course, I don't have anyone really holding me accountable for any of the goals and the things that I'm putting out there. I don't live near my friends. I live abroad. We travel every 6 months. You don't really have like an established core group of people that I'm reaching out to or asking even to be held accountable. So what was interesting though is just, again, kind of the whole things that you manifest for yourself. Conveniently, coincidentally, whatever you want to call it, I am reading The Compound Effect. It's actually part of our required reading. I'm reading The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And he just mentioned, or I just read today, that he checks in. He has an accountability buddy, a friend of his. They check in every Friday without fail at 11 a.m. for 30 minutes. And they go over their goals and their, wins, their misses, their aha moments, and all of these things without fail every Friday. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, I thought that was brilliant. It's such a simple idea, but it would really, for me, I think be something to implement. So I'm going along that road now. I just kind of wrote it down as my aha moment, and I'm going to seek out someone that wants to do that with me, that we can be holding each other accountable, call each other on our stuff, say, hey, didn't you say last week you wanted to do this? And now you're here. And I realize, it's not just kind of like to get me to do my stuff, oh, I got to get to do my stuff. It's more to get better. Finding a way, I really suggest finding a way to be accountable, because being accountable, when you take some time to see how you can implement in their life and see where you can track things, you can start to see where you can improve things. Michael Dell says anything that can be measured can be improved. So it's not just, like I said, about checking the boxes. Oh yeah, I did this. It's about also looking at it and say, what am I doing? What do I want to do? And how can I get better? How can I get even better? Because you can say, okay, I'm doing that. I'm doing that thing. I'm doing whatever that goal is. Like I'm meeting my workout. Okay, let's do something simple like that. I'm meeting my workout. You're meeting it every week. Maybe you need someone that comes in and says, could you do one more? Could you do something harder? Should you increase the weight? Should you increase the repetitions? Increase the distance? Whatever that is, can you improve? Just because you're hitting it, maybe there's room for improvement, right? So I think this is awesome. I'm going to find that partner. I would say, if that works for you or a group or a friend or whatever it is, public commitments. We've talked about that last week or the week before. I think we talked about the power of public commitments. That's another way to bring accountability into your life. But yeah, this is something that really, I felt like I was being accountable because I was tracking, I was doing that stuff. And when he asked and the question was posed, I was like, yeah, I actually am not. So I'm not that accountable at like anywhere in my life. I mean, I'm doing my due diligence for myself, but how much better could I do if I had a sense of accountability built in somewhere? So I'm going to do that. So another thing that was brought to us during our last lesson was coming to things with the mind of a student. Now, we had a lot of worksheets that came up. They were just kind of like, end of the month happened, our new lessons came up, and I was like, boop, here's 5 worksheets or something crazy. And I'll be honest, I really needed this reminder, to have a mind of a student. I needed to hear that more than I realized. Because as I mentioned before, I'm really organized. I have all my lists. I have my goals. I have my tracking sheet. I have spreadsheets. I have my deliberate practices. Like I'm that girl. I'm sorry. Hate me. Like I'm that girl. And I'm on track. Like I've been keeping everything going. So when I saw these and I saw everything, I was like, I'm already doing this. Like I've been doing this. Okay. I'm on track. This is for the unorganized behind people, right? Like ego much. I was totally like, but of course I'm an overachiever. So I'm like, I'm going to get them done. Let me just finish it and get them out of the way. That was kind of the attitude that I took. So I opened the worksheets and I was reminded of what he said about the student's mindset. And I was also reminded that getting it done for the sake of getting it done doesn't do anything for me, right? Just getting it done. Like I didn't pay for this course to have homework lessons and get them checked off and get an A or to pass. I got it to have transformational change. I got it to really hit some big goals and to do something I've never done before. So checking out this list doesn't mean crap, right? It's so much more important that I get the most out of it. So I had to kind of like reel it back out of ego town and come back to this with the mind of a student. So I looked at the questions and I started diving deep. I started looking really into them. And even though I saw some of the questions when I opened it, I was like, I already did this. But I kept doing it. And guess what? 2 hours later, I was so deep in thought. I was having aha moments here and there, left and right. And it was really hitting me in a completely different way. I mean, it was just opening up so much. And I was writing more and answering these questions than I'd ever probably written or answered before. And I really came out the other side transformed just in this moment of 2 hours of answering these questions that I thought were going to take 15 minutes because, I already answered them before. And the questions were great, right? It's definitely the questions were a part of it. But even outside of that, the transformation itself of the approach, like the attitude I came out with, and learning to say, oh yeah, Tanya, you think you got it all figured out. You know it. You're just going to answer these questions all quick. And what happened when I was aware of that and I switched that and I said, and I came to it with a different attitude, and what I came from that, like that alone, even if the questions were, what came first, the chicken or the egg or whatnot, which I guess can also be deeply philosophical, but the questions are important, but my point is I don't even know if that mattered as much as that switch, that mind shift that I came with, and then to see the power of it. So that was huge for me. That was already a big win. So that mind of a student, my goodness, I've heard it a million times, the man who knows, everything knows he knows nothing at all. And, but man, sometimes it's hard to live that, remember that. So that was huge. So then the next thing, is really one of the worksheets. And one of the worksheets we did was this 10-year vision. And if you've been sticking around for any of the lessons, then this may sound familiar to you, which is also why I was kind of cynical about it. Because I was like, another 10-year vision sheet? Like, we've done a 10-year vision sheet. We did like 2 months ago. Like, come on. The questions were different. They were a little more in depth, but still I was, again, came with that kind of attitude. And as I learned, I was totally wrong. So I want to go through and just give you some of the questions because I think they're amazing. There are 15 of them. Of course, this is, video recorded, so you always go back or you write them down, whatever works for you. But I'm going to go through them relatively quickly, just so you can get your juices flowing and think about them. So there are 15 questions. The first one is, what would you like to see in your life in 2028? What would you like to see in your life in 2028, right? It's 2018 now, so it's 10 years from now, 2028. Why would you like to have this life in 2028? What type of person do you want to be in 2028? And list the major accomplishments you'd like to achieve by 2028. List all of the experiences you want to have in 10 years. And describe a typical day for you in 2028. Now, there's a few more, but starting here, I want to say, get really detailed here. Get really detailed. Think about your age. Think about if you have kids, the age of your kids. That was like a big one for me. I have a toddler right now, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be like a preteen, almost a teen by that time. Like, holy crap. And how old am I going to be? What would I be doing? What would he be doing? How would I get up? Would I still be doing my morning routine? Would I have hit other goals? Would I be so good at incorporating other things in my life? What would I want my day to look like? And I started going from 5 a.m. all the way to the end of the day. And it was crazy. And really starting what do I want to have? What does my life look like? What am I doing? How many people are in my business? How many employees do I have? There's just get detailed. That's my point. Get detailed. So the next more questions. What does your focus need to be in order to achieve this 10-year vision? Right? So if this is what you're looking at, this is what you're seeing, what does your focus need to be moving forward? If your focus is, to be the fastest runner in the world, then you have some focus to be switching, right? You probably don't need to be focused on being an amazing cook. Although that is awesome. But if your goal is really to be this amazing runner, then sorry, you might need to do some more takeout or hire a chef or something else, or just keep eating the same good stuff you already know and shift your focus to becoming this amazing runner, right? So what does your focus need to be in order to achieve your 10-year vision? And this is where it switches, right? So now we're 10 years, I'm totally thinking over here. And then it says, if you knew you only had 6 months to live, would these still be your goals? And you're like, holy crap. Oh my God, I don't know. 6 months to live. Okay. What one of these, what would I still be looking at? What would your goals be if you only had 6 months to live, right? So now you're would these still be my goals? And if not, then what would they be? And how would they change, right? What would the timeline change? Who would you reach out to and what would you say? Right? I think that one, my insight on that is I was kind of more towards that unfinished business, what are you not finishing, right? If that was something that you need to deal with in the next 6 months. So who would you reach out to and what would you say? then what experiences would you make happen in that 6 months, right? We're over here 10-year. And then the shifts you're thinking to be like, well, crap, what would I do? What one of these could I just do in the next 6 months? Like what's realistic? Like maybe you can't be the fastest runner in the next 6 months, but maybe there's some other things that you've been putting off and going like, oh, there's that trip or that thing. And you're like, you know what? If I had 6 months to live, I'd be making that trip happen, right? So, what experiences would you make happen in that 6 months? Now, looking back on your 10-year and 6-month goals, what is holding you back from living that life right now, right? I think that was kind of foreshadowing. I knew that was coming. It was like, and it's a good thing to look at. It's a good thing to think about. It's easy for us to put things far away and go, oh yeah, it could totally happen. And then all of a sudden 10 years comes by and you're like, crap, like I haven't done any of this. I haven't even worked towards any of this because I put it so far away and it felt so nice and lofty to think about it over there. But it also like, well, what can you actually do now? Because sometimes this 10-year vision is almost like putting things off. If you're not in the right mind frame, it's really just a way to say, yeah, things will be better later and not make any like move towards it, right? So this, looking at your 10-year goals, like shift that and go, okay, well, you're not dying, but what could you do? What could you accomplish now? What could you make that life and do right now? So, and then next questions are, is your 10-year vision focused on things meaningful to you? Right? Because I'm sure that's what's going to happen when you're looking at this 6-month goal. All of a sudden, the stuff that's like not as important kind of starts to fall away. You're like, well, crap, I wouldn't care about that anymore. So, now I'm over here. Right now, I'm in the 6th month, so it helps you rethink. Is your 10-year vision really stuff that is that meaningful? Because I'm sure the stuff that was in your 6th month was probably pretty damn meaningful. Are there any parts of that vision that you can do or experience in the next 6 months? So again, bringing that back into the now. Now, some of them won't be. Some of them are going to be like, no, it can't be done in the next 6 months. And no, I wouldn't care about it if it was 6 months because I wouldn't be around. But some of them you may very well say like, you know what? I totally could do that. If I'm skydiving in 10 years, like, do you really need to wait 10 years? Could you do that now? Probably. I'm sure you can make it happen. There's extra money or you have to travel somewhere. Okay. It's probably a way to make that happen, right? So again, lots of great things to think about. Super awesome. Come to it with a student's mind. If you've answered these questions before, if you did the 10-year vision worksheet that we had a couple months ago, I'm telling you, don't discount it. It was really eye-opening again for me. So, and I was surprised. So the other worksheet that we did was our quarterly goals. And this worksheet just kind of had us come back. We're 18 weeks in. We started with that New Year's, zest and newness, and a lot has happened, right? I'm sure has happened in everyone's life in 18 weeks. So it was a really good time to come back and say, are these still the goals you want? Is this still where you are? Where are you? All of those things, right? So we were asked again, like, what do you want to accomplish by the end of 2018? And it's interesting because mentally, I felt very confident in what I started in January. I was like, yeah, this is totally what I want to do. And I got to my 7 levels of why, and I did the whole deal. But just like Benjamin Hardy said, as you change, as you shift, your goals are going to change as well. And it almost felt like, I don't know the word. I don't know what a good word for this is, but it felt like a cheater's way. Like, we can't just change your goals and be like, well, I don't want that anymore. Like, how easy is that? But that's such a crap way to think about it. Like the constant awareness and paying attention to where you are and what changes are happening mentally, physically, life, whatever, and adjusting and saying, you know what? Yeah, this is kind of shift to this or morph to that. That's totally okay. And not just okay. It's like the smartest way. It is the best way. So I think in my head, I saw it as kind of like a giving up, like, well, that's not my goal anymore. Now I'm going to do this. I think that's different. It's more about being aware and shifting it and adapting to where you are each time and making sure that it's still where you're headed. So yeah, that was what we were asked. We were also asked, why we want to accomplish those things and what is required to accomplish those things. Now, I want to mention that if you're looking at those 3 questions, which was, what you want to accomplish by the end of 2018, why you want to accomplish those things, and what would be required to accomplish those things, if you answer those, you basically figured out the what, why, and how you're going to accomplish your goals. Like, you created your game plan just by answering those questions. So that was super awesome. We were also then asked to look at our commitment to those things and if we're really committed to it. And are they specific enough? That's another thing. You may have started off going, oh, I want this or that, and then realize that wasn't that specific, wasn't measurable. You need something measurable. You need something specific. So then we were asked to look at the 10X version of these goals. And that's when I kind of like enter eye roll again. I was like, oh, you're the 10X, right? And I really felt that, I had learned so much already in this course that 10X, like I'm already thinking 10X. I get it. Like I got to push. I got to, not be comfortable where I am. Like I'm thinking 10X. Stop asking me 10X. And I was just like, I'm thinking big enough. I don't need to push any further. I don't need to, that's just being crazy, right? I'm doing this already. But of course, I answered the question to answer the question. And then we were asked, well, what would be required for this 10X version? And I'll be honest, right? My students' mindset. I started out, because this is the second worksheet now that I'm working on, and amongst many. And I started out, I was like, what would be required? An unreasonable amount of time. That's what I wrote. I started with that. An unreasonable amount of time, because it's just ridiculous, right? I'm already thinking so big. And so I kept answering it, right? I was like, whatever. Then I would need to do this. And I guess I would need to do that. And I would need to do this. And then I'd have to do that. And as I started writing it, I was like, this actually doesn't sound that unreasonable. That it doesn't sound that unrealistic. Because one of my 10X, I was like, I would need $1 million in the next 6 months. Like, come on, who's going to think that? Like, we all know that's an unrealistic goal, right? I mean, of course we want lofty and great goals, but come on. And so, but when I started writing it down, what would be required to make it happen, it wasn't that ridiculous. Now, are those the things I want to do or am willing to do? That's something else I have to look at. But the actual steps, no, they weren't that unreasonable. And it certainly is attainable if I'm willing to commit to it and I was willing to do the work. So I was like, holy shit, they got me. They got me again. They got me again. This seems really doable now. And again, I have to work out whether or not that's something I'm going to shoot for. But that shift again was like, I got to keep that learner, that student's mindset. I got to keep the heart of a learner because this is what happens. These aha moments, these epiphanies, these transformations are only going to happen when we approach it that way, right? So I'm happy to report that after all of this, I was totally wrong. I absolutely did need to answer these questions. I needed to keep that mind frame. I needed to keep that heart. And what I gained from this just was exponential power and transformation. And I almost felt euphoric after answering these. Like I had almost felt like I did like some weird, deep meditation. So try it out for yourself. I highly suggest whatever it is that you need to hear or do or write down that reminds you to approach things in that childlike manner, in that learning, way, in that student's mentality. Write it down to remind you, and then answer these questions. Go into these questions. Go deep. Get detailed as you can. Think as deep as you can. Dive in and see where it takes you. Right? That's the best I can offer for this, because as I'm reading in the compound effect, and being reminded, again, a lot of the things in the compound effect aren't brand new concepts, but they're not cemented yet. So we have to keep coming at them, keep rehearing them until they become habits, until they become part of us. And all of these goals have choices. All of your choices will alter your life's decision, and your choices build up and they make you who you are. So think about that, and, letting life just happen to you and just, letting things just being a byproduct of whatever comes your way, that's still a choice. And it's also a choice of choosing not to have any control or direction in what's going on. So what will your choice be? That's pretty much what I'm leaving you with. That's the lesson. We also have some required book reading. So I'm noticing, and the shift is going towards, 2 books a month. Which has been really awesome. I am not a reader. I would say I'm not a self-professed reader. I have read so much during this course, and now I'm starting to love it. I'm starting to become like that reader person. So super weird for me, but I'm really enjoying it. So I'm getting excited about it. The 4 books for the next 60 days, it doesn't matter what order you read them in. But the 4 books, if you are tagging along and you want to stick with this, is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And then Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. Now you might be like, wait, what a minute, I don't smoke. Or I'm not wanting to smoke. Benjamin Hardy mentioned he's never smoked a cigarette in his life, but the concepts and thought processes about habits that are in this book, he said, are fantastic and easily adaptable to plenty of other places in your life. So get on it. Keep that student's mind, right? Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking, and then the Blue Zones and the Whole 30. So you'll notice this is a very holistic thing happening here. So pick those up. I started with the compound effect. I'll probably go to the smoking one. I'll actually probably do them in that order. And let us know how you're doing and how you're feeling, what you think about it. And that's it. So that's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you like this kind of stuff and you're an entrepreneur and you want to see how we adapt this type of thinking into your entrepreneurial path, then definitely come and follow me on TanyaMFK on Instagram or on Facebook. And if you just like these lessons and you like to keep tagging along, definitely click that subscribe button and you'll be notified when the next lesson is up. So thanks for hanging out, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye.